When we lead with love, we carry it 24/7. And when we teach with love, we make sure our students don't forget it. To be black and to educate is to be superhero without the applause. It's to show up and show out no matter the cause. It's to play for the students no matter the winner. Because when we work arm in arm, the impact is bigger. Welcome to Untenured Podcast, where educators have a space to speak their truth. So tap in and listen to the very voices that mold our youth.
So blessings, YouTube community, and thank you for joining us for our second episode of season 2 of our Untenured Podcast. And as you know, here in our house, speaking your truth can never go left because it's your right. And today we are passing the virtual mic from New York to Miami, Florida, from being undeniably black and brilliant with Dr. Ajapong to another dope melanated soul that is an audacious author, powerhouse professor, and cultured consultant. You catch that alliteration, sis?
I can listen.
Hailing from Miami, she too is hooked on hooks and names bell hooks as one of the historical figures she draws her inspiration from. So it's no surprise that her work too is all about love, salvation, and communion. An assistant teaching professor in the Educational Policy Studies Department at Florida International University and the founder of Ivy Rose Consulting, Dr. Rose earned an EDD in Curriculum and Teaching from Teachers College, shout out to Columbia, a master's in education in human development and psychology from the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and a BA in elementary education from the University of Florida. Come on, 92%. Black women being the most educated in the U.S., another shining example. Currently, her research and work interests include the development and implementation of innovative approaches to social justice-oriented, critical, and culturally relevant instructional practices. And her design has a goal of rehumanizing education. Her recent book that has been available as an audiobook, we got ours right here, Woven Together, How Unpacking Your Teacher Identity Creates a Stronger Learning Community, serves as a guide and a resource in engaging in this reflective process. She's here with us today, and we are too hyped to get uncaged with this convo for the culture. So YouTube community, here we go. Our first melanated queen of season 2, Dr. Courtney Rose. Yes.
My goodness, that actually is leaving me a little speechless. Sometimes just to hear it all in such a beautiful way is a moment. It's a moment.
And says no cap, all roses, pun intended. All right. We don't subscribe to flavors of the month here. So happy Black History Lifetime and Mindset, and happy Black Women's History Month. And thank you for just closing out this month with what will be a really dope conversation. Can we kick off by you telling us why you chose the title Uncaged? For those that don't know, every guest gets to title their own episode with an unword, and Dr. Rose picked Uncaged. Tell us why.
So one of the first book, my mother has given me many books that she said, like, you must read this in your lifetime. and I'm here if you need a thought partner once you're done reading. And one of the books she gave me was I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I mean, it sent me on a journey of just reflecting on my own story and myself, where the places where I feel caged. I've had a lifetime of uncaging my voice, right? In the way that I speak freely, how I speak, where I share my story, how I share my story. And I'm about to turn 40 in a couple of months.
40 and fine, like right.
And I'm feeling that that's the word I want to take into the next decade of my life and just really set myself free in ways that I have been working towards, right? Whether that's in my writing, my teaching, even the different ways I'm socially engaging with folks, right? It's just, it's time. It's time to just uncage myself in all ways. So,
well, listen, I got a connection 3 ways. First, shout out to mamas being our first teachers, right? Going to school to get socialized with being educated at home. Shout out to mamas gifting libraries, right? Gifting love and ways to think, but also actual libraries. Because in our book Museum, we say that when you give a book, you give a gift that lasts forever. Yeah. And then shout out to turning 40, because I did that low key 3 years ago.
And, no way. I don't believe, sis. I don't believe.
Don't hit me with the show me your birth certificate. We'll do that later. I'll show you my license and everything. It's looking like a prison photo, but I'm gonna show it to you. And literally embracing being uncaged, because I don't know what it is. I was always told when you turn 40, there's something that happens. Yeah. And I've always been a little delayed in life, but right around the cusp of 43, I'm feeling that same urge to just liberate myself and break free. And so shout out to Dr. Maya Angelou. First book name drop. I know why the cage birds sing. They had a real audacity to try to put that on the banned book list, but that's a separate TED Talk. All right, so let's jump from Maya Angelou to Bell Hooks, because I also am a fellow Bell Hooks fan. Tell us when you first got introduced to her, if Mama gave you a book, and what got you hooked on her, and what you remember reading her for the first time felt like.
Yeah, so Bell Hooks, I was actually introduced through more of her academic works, like her journal articles and things like that, in some of my courses in my graduate studies. And it was the way she wrote that really spoke to me. It just felt natural and authentic and just fluid in a way that I deeply connected with. And then I read All About Love. I've read it twice. And I felt like it, in many ways, both asked and answered a lot of questions that I've had throughout my own life. Yes. And again, how she wrote, it just speaks to my spirit in a really profound way.
Yeah, sitting at a kitchen table with your girlfriend.
My book is yellow. The cover is yellow, in homage to Teaching to Transgress. And I knew immediately I was going to go blue at first because blue is my favorite color, but I was teaching a course and we use Teaching to Transgress for this course. And I just, when my publisher sent me yellow as a backup option, I was like, well, okay, Bell says it's so. So I must.
Well, first inside scoop. Have you ever shared that backstory about the color choice for your cover? Has that ever?
Yes, I have. I've shared it on my Instagram because when I finalized the choice, it was not too. It was either right before or right after Bell Hooks' birthday when I had made the choice, and so I had to go online and share that. Because of the timing, because of I hadn't originally had yellow as an option, and then they gave it to me. When Bell Hooks passed, I literally had to take a seat on my couch and just cry because I just felt like she left her work behind, and so we've never lost her, but it just felt like something very profound had shifted in the world with her passing. So, yeah.
Well, listen, one of the things I also wanted to share with you, in our book museum, we had this area that was stationary, and it was almost analogous to like an altar, but it was filled with like those really precious books that may not be published anymore or were autographed by the author. And one of the books that was in there, I'll send you this picture after. My mother, when that book came out, its first edition, she got it signed to me by Bell Hooks. And I had to have been like 1 or 2, like crazy young. And so I'm going to send you that picture, because now every time I see that book, I'm going to think of you and this book. All right. So another thing I try to do is connect our guests across state lines. I mean, you told me low key that as soon as you saw that Dr. Ed was on, you were like, all right, maybe I'm not an AI like crazy person, right? And so right before we had Dr. Ed, we had a brother named Asif Wilson from Chi-Town. He closed out season 1, and he has this sentence stem that he uses in every presentation and workshop that I have humbly and gratefully adopted. So I want you to finish this sentence. You ready?
Yes.
If you had listened to Black women yesterday, how would you finish that sentence? If we had only listened to Black women yesterday,
we would be so much further along.
Hello, Ohio. I don't have the bell. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna edit and give you like the applause. So much further, point blank, period. Yes. And I love that he had that sentence stem just in the wave of what's been going on with the 92% and the data showing that Black women, we're the most educated in the US, right? But also, as Malcolm X said, the most disrespected, undervalued, unappreciated. Another beautiful moment here in March with you, Dr. Rose. And so I'm going to dive into your book because there's so many things I loved about it that spoke to youth culture, my own upbringing pedagogically and personally. And I saw that one of the things that shaped you and that you loved and is one of the Black women I love that shaped me is Lauryn Hill.
Yes.
Shout out to the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Look what I wore today for you.
Yes.
How you gonna win
it is the question of all questions. Okay.
When you ate right with them. Okay. So do you have a favorite track?
Oh, so many. Okay. So I have probably been able to perform Do Up That Thing from memory since I've heard it the first time. I was like, this, I have to. And I will do it on command. Not today. I have to be,
Not
you know,
today. No.
but I have done it. There is a video on somebody's Instagram of me doing it. I love Every Ghetto, Every City. I mean, so many. Zion, I was just listening to the other day. Like, there's such profound memories of just riding in the car with my girls, just listening to that album and just playing it. And at each stage of my life, finding a different connection to a different song that, because I'm a little bit older, having a new experience, it's like, oh, I get this song differently now. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And Zion touches me very deeply too, because I'm not yet a mother, but I know it's still in my journey somehow, some way. I'm embracing that. And Zion, I heard it the other day, and it just reinvigorated my confidence in that, because in many ways I have mothered in other ways too. So I feel connected to that song as well. So Zion might be sticking out to me right now just because it's where my energy is.
And not for nothing, that's an album I literally can press play and walk away and repeat.
Of course.
And you across the decades, like, things just resonate. And the other thing, it was the first time I heard an album that, because you know how she had those interludes with Raz Baraka? It's like the first time that music always spoke to me and taught me things, but that there was explicit script and conversation that I was paying attention to without my mother being like, sit down and listen to this.
Yep.
Right. And so in reading your book, thinking about teaching as being part of your own destiny and in your DNA, because you even dedicate the book to your parents who were your first teachers and educated themselves. When did you know that you wanted to be a teacher? I probably knew earlier than I admitted to myself. I probably always knew deep down. But there was a summer where it really hit. I was working as a summer camp counselor, and I was really dreading going back to college because I was a journalism major at the time, and it wasn't a really enjoyable experience for me. The program was very rigid and stressful. And one of my bosses or, directors of the camp at the time was talking to me about this. And he was like, why don't you just do this? Why aren't you doing this? And I said, being a camp counselor, because the kids go back to school. I was probably 20 or 21. And so he was like, no, you educate, be an educator. Like you breathe this. And he worked in a school during the rest of the year. So when the summer was over, he worked in a school. And he said, I've never really seen anyone more natural at this. And so it's in you. You should do this. And so I went back to school, and it was supposed to be the start of my junior year. And I changed my major, and I walked into my first education course the following week or whenever classes started. And I immediately remember having the feeling of I'm home when the class started. And I've never left. So and there you have it. And so do you remember when you had your first Black teacher? I do. It was 5th grade or 4th grade. Fourth grade. My family moved to South Florida from Connecticut, and where we were living at the time. And we moved in the middle of the year. And so when my parents took us to enroll in school, they had photos of all the teachers on the board. I'm lying. It was 5th grade. So I'd never had a male teacher before. So I chose a male teacher. I was like, this is interesting. So then the
The next year I was placed in Mrs. Culpepper's class, and Mrs. Culpepper was my 5th grade teacher, and she was the one thing I remember about her. She always had a pack of Tic Tacs, like orange ones, the orange Tic Tacs. And so I bought her a gigantic container of Tic Tacs for Christmas, but she was just everything. She just was, the way she moved around the room and talked, and it just felt again like I'm home. I mean, it just was the very first Black teacher I remember having, and one of those teachers I felt like I'm safe here, no matter what, I'm safe here.
Yeah. And what was your name? Miss Culpepper? Miss
Culpepper.
Miss Culpepper, shout out to you, your orange Tic Tacs, and what you inspired in what now manifested in a Dr. Courtney E. Rose. Yes. And so in the spirit of breaking up some of our conversation, I wanted to incorporate, this might surprise you, a new micro segment. It was inspired by Dr. Ed with his
goodness.
Don't worry, I'm not going to spit no bars, right? But not my favorite group. But do you remember that Black Sheep song, You Could Get With This or You Could Get With That? Okay. Look at me trying to spit bars. So in this, it's a rapid fire. I'm going to give you 2 choices. Try not to think about it. Tell me which one you prefer. You could get with this, you could get with that. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Would you rather be the teacher or be the student?
I'd rather be the student. I love learning too much.
Sweet potato pie or peach cobbler?
Sweet potato pie.
All about love or teaching to transgress?
All about love.
Ooh. Insecure or girlfriends?
Ooh, girl. Ooh. This is breaking my heart. I'm gonna have to go insecure. All
right, sorry. Love you, Tracy Ellis Ross. All right. Read a book or write a book?
Girl, read.
Okay. Now this is I was talking you on IG. Marching band or winter guard?
Marching band.
Okay.
Winter guard is so stressful.
Listen, and I was watching it stressed out, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's so stressful.
Okay. And you have to go to her IG at Dr. Courtney Rose to know what I'm talking about. Middle school teacher or college professor?
Ooh. At this stage, I'll say college professor. That's a tough one for me, though. That's a tough one.
I tell her middle school students, she still loves you.
I really do. I
think to middle school too, because I feel like sarcasm doesn't work and that hormones and stuff. I've only ever done high school or the basic, never went to the middle. So another reason why we go like this to you. All right, here we go. Go back and meet your great-great-grandparents or go forward in time and meet your great-great-grandchildren.
Oh, I'm always going back. Going back.
All right, here's another one. Wicked or The Wiz?
Oh gosh. I have to go Wicked only because of what Cynthia done with it. Okay.
Did we try to hit the note?
No, we shall not. I'm a bow out, but because I have so much respect for what Cynthia did. I mean, she changed it. She changed it for me.
Yeah. She changed it. All right, sugar or salt if you like grits?
Oh, salt.
And here's the last one, which will get us back into your beautiful book, Woven Together. Yeah. Janine or Barbara?
Oh, Janine, because I am her.
Listen, okay, so if you don't know why I'm making that reference, another beautiful thing, shout out to your 1-year audio book anniversary. I don't even know if that's a word for you and your Woven Together, which is available, yes, on all major bookshops, Amazon, Walmart, bookshop.org, if you love to shop at indie bookstore. You put Abbott Elementary as not only a whole chapter, but a backdrop to conversation in your book that I just love. And so how did you come up with the idea to include that iconic show? And then what about Janine resonates the most with you?
So I included it just because I think it's one of the most, especially in the first couple seasons, one of the most authentic portrayals of educators working in what we largely call urban schools, but just serving Black and brown populations, right? And so I just felt it got to the heart of who these teachers were and how so many of us come to this work and what drives us in the work, and also humanize teachers in such a beautiful way, humanize students in a really beautiful way. Yeah. And I think really showed people what teaching truly requires, right? Because I think there are so many narratives of teaching is just anyone can do it, and we don't really think about, if you've never done it, you may not know all of what goes into the job and into the work, and what it requires of you to give of yourself, right? In many ways. And so I think Abbott and Quinta Brunson she just does such a good job of doing that.
Yes.
And the other actors on the show have really done a really wonderful job of portraying these different archetypes of teachers, and humanizing them so much in the process. Not putting out caricatures of teachers, but really humanized representations of them. And so I had to celebrate it. Janine and I think when I first came in to teaching, I just, in every way, I was her, just like so excited and couldn't believe I was doing this and just wanting to save the entire world and just like maybe not recognizing that I didn't know, and I just needed to take a breath and kind of observe a little bit, look upward. I had a Barbara, Mrs. Chinsia Fowler. That was my Barbara, and my goodness, I don't know that I've given her enough credit in my life for helping me to become the educator that I am. So, but yeah, I was constantly, Miss Fowler was constantly looking at me like, girl, what are you doing? It's such a better way to do this, girl.
I love about the show, and having been an educator too, that had Janine in her spirit also. It's like the Janines need the Barbaras and the Barbaras need the Janines. 100%. You don't need a building full of Janines or a building full of Barbaras. So shout out to your Janine-esque vibe and all that you've done in education. And again, Abbott Elementary, we're not getting paid to plug it. It is a whole vibe, and the chapter and the way that you take the show and reflect it in your pedagogical practice and journey and experience. Super, super dope. Okay, so there's a virtual elephant in the room, right? I don't like to necessarily subscribe to stereotypical or deficit narratives, but you did say you're in Miami, Florida, or Florida. I am. Right? And so here in our house, remember, speaking your truth can never go left because it's your right. But I have to ask you, what is it like leading this work? Because your work does a lot of unpacking teacher identity for learning communities, especially given the overarching current political climate in Florida. And you take a very firm position in your stance about the importance of this work. And equally, a firm position is taken by politicians of your state against the subject matter of your work. What is it leading against that grain?
Well, so I've spent most of my life in South Florida, either in Broward County or Miami, where I am now. So it's something I'm very used to, right? And how to navigate this work, which is why I always go back, when you ask me that question about would you go back to me and go forward, because I think it's important to look back and remember, like, we've made it through stuff like this before. And what did it take? What were our teachers doing? What were our professors doing? And secondly, Miami is different than a little bit different than culturally than the rest of the state. And so there's a little bit more movement in that direction, although things are shifting in that area as well. But I think what's giving me the most support is I work within a department and alongside colleagues who are equally committed to this work as I am. And so there's a lot of support, there's a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of collective thinking and movement, and we're just always working together. I have 2 colleagues that I meet with monthly, and we share practices and we share concerns, and we just help each other navigate the work in that way and keep each other motivated. But most importantly, the students want it and the students ask for it, and it's in the scope of my courses. I teach courses like Teaching Diverse Populations. I teach Cultural and Social Foundations of Education. And these kinds of courses actually require us to talk about the policies, to talk about how things are manifesting within schools, and to give students spaces to unpack all sides of the discussions. And that is what I do, right?
Yeah.
And so, the students are needing and requiring and asking for these spaces, and that is my job. And
Hello. Shout out to responding to the call. So along those lines, another thing that jumped out of the book at me that really pushed my thinking was you have a section on the threads of silence, where you kind of push back on this singular notion that silence is violence, right? Most often an indication of discomfort. Can you bring our viewers in that have not read your book yet around your thinking of another perspective of what silence can really mean, especially in a pedagogical setting?
Yeah. So I think, any educator, or most educators know, we use silence often to give our students time to think, to sometimes build up their courage to speak, and not be so quick to fill the space because we're uncomfortable with the silence, right? And so I think in some ways, when we apply this more broadly, we can do the same thing, right? I think there's a lot of times where we feel like if nobody else is speaking, it's not going to happen, but we can give people sometimes space to not always look to us to say like, well, what do you think? And what are you going to do? Requiring people to speak can also be violence, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
I also think we can use our silence sometimes as a tool to require others to step up and say, what do you think? Right? I'm asking you to step up. I'm requiring you to step up. And sometimes silence is what we need to process things. We don't need to always jump up so quickly. Sometimes it's good to sit in the discomfort of it a little bit and figure out slowly and just listen and get the information that we need before we're so quick to act. I think many times my students, we leave kind of in a thinking space because we don't have the words yet. We need more information. And so I just feel like silence can sometimes be a really powerful space if we think about meditation and all of these things to go inward and just think like, what is needed in this moment, right?
Yeah.
What do we need? And not be so quick to react to what's on the surface, but kind of sit with what's happening on a much deeper level and how do we respond to what's at the root. And for sometimes that requires like a moment of silence, a moment of reflection, and going inward.
Yeah. And so shout out to, I love to say shout out. So shout out to marinating, right?
Yeah.
Microwaving, like hurry up and respond. And I love that you say that sometimes requiring people to speak is an act of violence. Like speak up in space. Where's your voice? So I love that you have that threads of silence, another beautiful moment in the book. And another connection, episode 2 in season 1, we had Donovan James on, and she spoke to her book Beyond February was about, going beyond Black History Month to talk about Black history and all of its beautifulness. And one of the things that came up is she noticed that teachers, it's not that they can't teach Black history, they just don't want to, which kind of had me thinking about the skill gap versus the will gap. So I wanted you to weigh on this. Do you think it's a skill gap or a will gap when it comes into diving into self-identity work for teachers? Like they don't have the skill or they don't really want to do it?
I think it's probably a strong mixture of both. I think there is a large skill gap in that sense. We're not really taught how to do this work. It's not even really desirable for people to do this work. And it's really painful work at times, right? To kind of face some of the things that have made us who we are or that has hurt us. I mean, it can be very, very jarring work and very painful work to face some of the things that we've kind of left in the past or don't want to go back to. But it's really important because whether we look at it or not, it's going to manifest in our work, right? It can manifest in our work. And if we're not ready for it, then we may not be able to respond to it well. And so I do think that there is probably I would lean more towards a skill gap just because it's not something that is very prioritized, right? But I think there's also a lot of conversation about knowing who your students are, knowing who we're working with, and to take the time to turn the lens back on ourselves seems like getting in the way of that work. So there may be a part of a will gap there too. But I personally feel like there might be a much larger skill gap in this area.
And listen, what better way to do another plug for Woven Together? Because if the skill is the gap, then listen, we have a book here that not only has reflections, it features teachers as case studies and their anecdotal recommendations and resources. It's a one-stop shop for closing the gap in your skill to be able to dive deeper into who you are and how you show up in community in the powerful role of an educator. All right. So another thing I did in preparing for today and stalking you on IG, I saw that you intentionally follow musicians, poets, and artists on social media to remind you that work is supposed to make people feel something. And so we piggybacking off of that, we're going to make one of the iconic moments of season 2 a year-long topic. How did K-Dot's halftime show make you feel?
Oh, it made me feel, I will say it definitely woke up, like it reinvigorated my passion, right? I'm like, I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I immediately brought it into class, showed my students, we talked about it all. None of that was planned, but I think it definitely woke up like, girl, you're just not pushing hard enough, right? And you're not making people feel. I think there's a lot to be said about creating moments of discomfort even sometimes, right? And making people question, like, do I like this? Am I into this? What is this even like,
Why am I what is that rooted in, right?
Yes, exactly. So I think it's like I'm not creating enough opportunities where people have to sit with their feelings around something. Like, I think I like this, but I'm also confused, but I'm also like,
I say I like it publicly, like people go through all of those emotions of it. And then so I just tell the viewers, I didn't share questions with you before this, right? No question. Okay, so literally you tapped into what my follow-up was going to be. Have you been incorporating it into your curriculum or conversations with students? And it makes me say emphatically, yes, you already heard that he did it without me asking. And then moreover, what did you feel about his portrayal about the great American game?
Like, I thought it was brilliant. I've written about the education system as a chess game, right? As a chessboard, as a chess piece. There's plenty of other scholars who have done the same. And I think it's a perfect analogy. I think it is, and it was just so brilliantly, portrayed and woven into like his music used to tell this story and to like really bring it to life. So I thought it was just, it's a really great analogy. And I think he brought it to life really powerfully. So,
well, look what I do here. Shout out to how Kendrick Lamar wove it together.
Listen.
Okay, yeah, you're so corny. All right, I'm going to move on. So another question we ask every guest, can you name an artist or maybe a Brangelina of artists whose swag matches your educational vibe? Like if Dr. Courtney Rose was going on a road tour, filling up stadiums, which artist would match her pedagogical vibe?
Yeah, well, definitely like Lauryn Hill, like, for sure. I think it's very clearly stated in the book. And then, for sure, I would have to say, man, my music vibe has changed a lot. Cleo Soul is really, yeah, she's really been someone who I've been gravitating towards for her. I just feel love come through her music at all times. And that is really what I try to do when I teach. And so I think Cleo Soul would have to be at the top of the list right now. And then because I like to push my students to think, and I'm sometimes a little edgier in my style, then of course I'll throw in K-Dot. But like, I think I'm really leaning into like this very love vibe that Cleo brings out. So
and her song "Know That You Are Loved," like I
Yes, I was just listening to that the other day.
So get out of my AirPod. Get out of my AirPod. Right. You have a hype song because I also saw on your IG you taught how many college courses this semester?
4. I'm teaching 4.
Oh my God. Okay, so that's a separate TED talk. You survived it. The semester's over. You just have to do grades. But let's say it was midterm time of this past
Yeah.
semester, and you're dragging. You're like, not to go be with your kids, but just the mental, physical, emotional toll it takes to teach 4 classes. So I need to know, what's your hype song? You're getting in the car, you're trying to pump yourself up for the day.
I don't think I have a single song, but I do have a 1990s, early 2000s hip hop playlist that when I cannot get it together, that's what I play as I get closer to the university. Because I'm like, listen, we need to take it back because I'm dragging. But I think that's where I go. I go to late 90s, early 2000s hip hop. It just brings me back to life and gets me ready to go.
Well, listen, one small homework assignment. Who am I to give you, Dr. Rose, anything to do? But we have
that's who you are. Give it to me.
Okay. So we have an untenured playlist, and every guest is sequentially a song on our playlist. And so you, as episode 12, would be song 12. So I'm gonna have to hold your feet to the fire, even if you just randomly select a song on this 90s playlist.
Okay, let me see. I have my
now. You can text it to me later. I don't want to put you on.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get you a song
and give us a good one, because we got. I mean, if you go and look at the list, I mean, no pressure, but we need a good one to keep us hyped from afar. All right?
I promise.
All right, perfect. And then a little bit of an inside scoop into you in this work. So we got your hype song. Let's swing the pendulum the other way. What hurts you in this work? So if you could just put out a quick PSA to either students, potential collaborators, anyone you're going to be in community with around learning, and you could just let them know in advance, like, please stop doing this. It's a pet peeve of mine in this work as we're all learning and unlearning and weaving and unweaving. What irks you?
What irks me? I think a lot. So I think there's a lot of times where people want grace that they're not willing to give, right? And so I think, like, I literally just wrote an email to my students. I hurt my back recently, and I've had trouble sitting at the computer for extended periods of time. So grades are back and forth. And I said, listen, y'all write to me all the time, asking for extensions, for this, that, and everything. Your very human professor is asking you for a little flexibility and understanding as I navigate this pain that I'm recovering from. And I think it was just a constant reminder that, like, you're reaching out to me, but I'm just as human as you are. And I think sometimes folks forget that we are working together, but the same humanity you got, I got that too.
I got it too. Listen, I'm going to make a connection to one of our favorite albums. I know you're going to be able to finish this lyric. She wrote it about an ex, but we're going to say it to the students, right? Tell me who I have to be to gain some
reciprocity, honey. Like,
Lauryn told you, just listen to Lauryn. Give the grace you want, right? Expect the grace you want to receive. All right, we got it. And so we talked about what you do when you're dragging. We talked about what irks you. Let's go in the middle. You said the word for you for this year was balance. How do you allow yourself rest and rejuvenate in the midst of this pendulum swinging work?
Yeah, so I will admit I am a reality TV junkie. So I will do that. Give myself a couple of hours every day. My email shuts off at 6 p.m. and Monday through Friday, and never gets opened on Saturday and Sunday. And so that's work email. So my students know it. They'll even write, I know you're not going to see this till the morning, but I didn't want to forget to send this. And I tell them that's perfectly fine. So, like, and I will respond in the morning. But my email is shut off at 6 p.m. so that I can gather. I have been walking. I take the one great thing about being in Florida is you could be outside all year. So I've been taking, 30 to 60 minute walks as often as I can, just to move my body and kind of move the emotion through my body. It was and I have been off my meditation game, but I definitely need to get back on, especially with the end of the semester upon us, just to keep things as balanced as possible.
Uncaged from the bounds of teaching 4 o'clock. Now listen, walking Are you music? Are you audiobook? Are you nature? Are you listening?
When I'm walking, it depends. It depends. I've been in a real podcast phase when I'm walking right now, because I feel another book coming, and so I'm like ingesting a lot of information right now. And so that's how I know when I'm ready to write is I'm seeking out a lot of information. And so that's where I am right now. But yeah, usually it's music, but right now I'm in a podcast phase.
Well, if you're trying to book her, if you're trying to get in touch with her, she chucks up the deuces at 6 p.m. via email. Make sure it could be 5:57, but if it's after 6, you heard it here first. She's chucking up the deuces, all right? Which is a perfect segue to our second segment, Deuces. I'm going to give you 3 harsh realities in education. Some you experienced firsthand, some you may have heard of and are aware of, but didn't. I want you to tell me which do you think is doing the most damage, and if you could chuck up the deuces to one of them, which would you eradicate ASAP?
Okay.
And all harmful. All right, you ready?
Okay. Yes.
All the Black staff are only security, custodial, and cafeteria employees. All the Black staff are skin folk, but not kinfolk. Or all the Black teachers teach only the remedial or non-advanced or credit-bearing courses.
Ooh. I would say this is hard. You're making this very difficult.
Listen,
I would say
92% of the question. You can say
skin folk, not kinfolk, because no matter where you are, if you got me, you can help me. Like, you can advocate for me and you can be there to support me. But if you're not kinfolk, then no matter where you are, you're causing harm.
Hello. And no right or wrong, sis, because these are all all right. You ready for this one? If I do it right, it's a little spicier. Here we go. Training new teachers with the don't smile until November approach. Training teachers on Vygotsky and Maslow and leaving out Hooks, Delpit, and Latson Billings. Or training teachers on identifying standards and writing lesson plans, but not unpacking their identity.
Yeah, this is a personal pet peeve of mine and one that I think has to go, but this don't smile till November, December, that one got to go. It just eats away at humanity right from the beginning.
Yes. All right, here's the next one. Teachers not having joy when they teach the babies. Teachers not having high expectations when they teach our kids. Or teachers not showing interest beyond the hours of the school day. Like the bell rings, my bag's on, I'm going back to my community, my home.
What was the second one?
It was teachers not having high expectations of our kids.
High expectations. I think, that's the killer for me. Yeah.
All right, Deuce has got, and you don't have to explain yourself.
Gotta go.
She said, all right, 3 more. Educational leaders who have never taught. Like here in New York, at one point, we had this woman named Kathy Black. She's nowhere in education. She was the business. Educational leaders with no cultural competency, or educational leaders with no concern for staff morale or school culture.
I'm going to say all 3 of those are horrible, as we've talked about, but I'm going to say the cultural competency. That's the biggest killer for me in that one.
All right, here's the next one. Policing how our kids talk, policing how our kids act, or policing how our kids dress while they're in school.
Dress is the most irrelevant.
Hello, gotta go. That doesn't even need a hesitation. All right, 2 more. Here we go. Teachers who promote Black history but crush Black futures. Who teach Black and brown kids but are not willing to learn from Black and brown kids. Or teachers who celebrate compliance but will not, as Goldie Muhammad says, cultivate genius.
Compliance over the one about compliance and that. Yes. They're all misaligned, but that one is just
gotta go. All right. And then this last one, whitewashed curriculum, white savior mentality, or white fragility. Which one gotta go?
Ooh, white fragility, because you can't hear constructive criticism.
Boom. And no hesitation there either. Well, we survived that. That was a micro segment.
That one was the hardest thing we've done.
Really?
They all gotta go.
They all gotta go. All right. So speaking of all of them gotta go, we just said oh hell no to a lot of those options that I gave. And for this oh hell no segment, you actually said you have so many things that are coming up in your schema, your docket, your spirit to discuss, but you want to zone in on the recent attempt to dismantle the Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you saying, oh, hell no, to this current event?
I think I'm saying, I don't know if I'm saying, oh, hell no, but it's the one that's sticking out. I think I'm saying, oh, hell no, just because we don't know really what that's going to mean for people and for schools and for districts. It's also the one that my students, who are largely pre-service teachers, I'm teaching all undergraduates this semester, which is beautiful. And they're mostly those who are about to enter the field as educators. And it's the one that has them the most concerned about what this means and what it will look like. And so this is an area where it's a great space for me to use it as a teaching tool and like, well, let's explore, what does the Department of Education do? Why was it, put together, all of these things. And then we're finding that at this point we have a lot more questions than answers, which is where the concern is coming from, right? Yeah. Because even when people are asking some of these questions, the answers are coming back very vague, very with still laced in uncertainty and like not direct answers. And so we don't know what this is going to mean for individuals who rely on some of these federal services and funds. We don't know what this means for districts who really, in a system that was already cloaked in inequities, right? Like, what does this mean in terms of that? I'm really worried about the true intention behind a move like this, right? And then we all know that even if there's, stated good intentions, that doesn't mean the impact will be good. So I just think there's just so much concern and uncertainty around it that for me, there needed to be more discussion about what this will mean and what it will look like before you can just bulldoze in and make a change like that, where so many people are impacted.
Yes. And, from in my current role as a supervisor of IS, where I'm working through a BOCES to help component districts, the big thing that jumped into my heart, mind, and spirit, aside from the impact on Black and Brown communities, is a lot of what the DOE did federally was it gave the funding to the communities who don't have the homeowners that subsidize the education, right? Yep. So what does that mean for the largely Black and Brown communities and those with special needs, for how they'll get equitable distribution of resources so that we can do more to give the opportunity to the most vulnerable. So I don't know, stay tuned, sis. It's not looking like he's going to do a lot of explaining. It's a lot of fugazi, raggedy stuff going down. But in the spirit of just putting a period on that, we're saying, oh, hell no, to intentions not equaling impact and canceling of what was created to do something about the supreme cloaked inequities now intentionally being reversed. That's a huge no.
I love the way you phrased all of that too. I really do. It really gets at the core of what I'm feeling around it too. So
yeah, and shout out to feeling, because there's a numbness that's being inspired in communities for us not to care because that's them over there. But I think is the best way to stay connected to the real things that matter. All right, one more micro segment, and then we gotta let the sister rest. She taught 4 undergraduate courses this semester. She's trying to write a new book, and then Yaya comes in and is like, can you hop on this podcast for a second? So this last micro segment, a lot of times in the field, sis, the power and the beauty, but sometimes the burden of having a code switch, right? Something comes up and your heart wants to say something, but you remember where you are, who you are, where you are, and if it's a safe space. But in this episode, in the theme of keep speaking your truth can never go left because it's your right, I'm going to say something they say, and this will be your chance, unfiltered, expletives allowed, to clap back. Now, Pinky promise that you're going to want to pause, and I'm not going to shame the silence or the processing. You're going to want to pause and think about what you want to say, but I want to push you to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Do your best. All right, here we go. So, they say, you say, you ready, YouTube community? Here we go. They say angry Black woman. You say
determined Black woman.
Come on. You're not hesitating. Here we go. They say, we heard you say to welcome emotions into the classroom, but I'm a STEM teacher. There's no emotions for equations or scientific method. Math and science, like all of teaching, is black and white. No emotion. You say,
you don't understand what math and science really is.
All right, come on. They say unpacking identity is not teacher preparation work. That's work to do in therapy. We need teachers that can dig into content with drowning academic performance of students in the US, not digging deep into themselves and their souls. You say,
we need teachers who can teach humans and not just content.
Let me not raise them too high because I need these to see. All right, here we go. And last one. They say that your book, Woven Together, should be banned.
Mm.
What do you say?
Have you read it?
Okay, done. Period. Okay, so one of the things, again, I love about your book is the reflection prompts with each chapter, and there's resources in the appendix. So it's not just your personal narrative and your collection of stories of other pedagogues that you've come across. It's like, here's what you can do next, right? Sometimes you get somebody somewhere and they're emotionally charged and they're subscribing to your belief. And then it's like, but what do I do? And I love especially an activity that you name that you start every course that you've ever taught with about what's. So I want to close by posing one of your questions to you. Do you think your name suits you?
I do now. When I was growing up, I didn't. It didn't feel like me. It was also a very common name when I was a kid. It's not as common. Courtney is not as common as it once was. But it suits me. It tells my whole story. My middle name especially was given to me by my maternal grandmother, and who I didn't get to know as well because she was sick for most of my life. But it feels like such a gift to have a piece of her in my name. And so it fits me because I think it tells the entirety of my story. And
you are whose you are. Who came before you that for you and dreamt of you before you existed. And shout out to grandmothers, because our book Zam is named after my maternal grandmother. And one of the quotes that we love to share with anyone who visited our space, and it's actually the closing quote in our children's book by Layla Delia, your mother's prayers are still protecting you. So shout out to grandmothers everywhere. So sis, your last name is Rose. A rose is a symbol of love and relationship, and you undoubtedly embody those in who you are. And since teaching is not what you do, but who you are a walking testimony to the power of how love of self, community, and children, as well as building relationships with self, community, and children can be seamlessly woven together for a beautiful life journey. We want to close with one of our fave bell hooks quotes, since you're a fan too. And I believe that we want to give you the final word with our viewers, but a closing bell hooks quote. I celebrate teaching that enables transgressions, a movement against and beyond barriers. It is that movement which makes education the practice of freedom. So cheers to being uncaged. Cheers to teaching to transgress, transforming and lighting this fire in you that now has you paying it forward. And cheers to everything you're doing to inspire the next wave of teachers on their journey towards identity of self for the cultivation of community with others. Any closing words for our viewers?
Oh, I just want to say thank you for having me. This has been such a beautiful conversation. And I will leave with something that I've been telling my students, that sometimes it's not about figuring out what the right answers are, but really thinking about whether we're asking the right questions. And so I challenge everyone to think about, if you're struggling to find a solution to something, perhaps it's because you're asking the wrong questions, and to dig a little deeper.
Come on, that's a bar. I feel like when I edit this, I'm gonna have to put like some dope beat behind that. Well, listen, Dr. Courtney E. Rose, you can follow her on Instagram at Dr. Courtney Rose. Her favorite color is blue, but the reason for the cover yellow is because she's a Bell Hooks fan and loves that book. She loves Lauryn Hill's The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. She loves teaching. That's what she's passionate about. She puts salt in her grits and she picks secure. The rest of it you have to watch to get the summary of, but we can't say enough for you not only pouring into us virtually, but keeping us going and setting the bar high for the next guest for season 2 of Untenured.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll be in touch, and look for that package in the mail. I'm going to cultivate off this
Thank you so much. Now deep breaths, and let everything go. This was a beautiful experience. Thank you so much.
And if the bun got any more to the left, it would have been time to go. Oh my God.